What happens when legacy meets rebellion, when discipline collides with reinvention, and when one of the most photographed families on earth quietly fractures behind mansion gates. This isn't just another celebrity disagreement. This is the slow burning rift between the Beckham dynasty and their eldest son. A story not of shouting matches and viral scandals, but of silence, distance, lawyers, and one young man searching for his identity in the shadow of two global icons. Let's talk about what's really going on. In every famous family, there's pressure. But in the Beckham household, pressure is practically part of the decor. From the outside, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham built something almost mythic. A football legend who became a global brand. A pop star who transformed into a respected fashion entrepreneur. Together, they created not just a marriage, but an empire. Discipline, consistency, endurance. That's the Beckham blueprint. And then there's their eldest son, Brooklyn. Handsome, soft spoken, married into another powerful dynasty. And according to many observers, still searching for his lane. Photography, then cooking, then lifestyle branding, then hot sauce, then social media personality. Each pivot wasn't just a career move, it became a headline. And with every new venture, the public scrutiny intensified. Critics questioned his training, his credentials, his authenticity. Was he experimenting or drifting? For someone growing up in the long shadow of David Beckham's ironclad career discipline, comparisons were inevitable. David didn't try football. He breathed it. He trained relentlessly. He built his reputation brick by brick. His success was forged through consistency. Brooklyn's journey, by contrast, has looked fluid, exploratory, unsettled. And in a world obsessed with clear narratives, that unsettled path became fuel for criticism. But here's where it gets complicated. Because Brooklyn didn't just marry anyone. He married Nicola Peltz, an actress and heiress from one of America's wealthiest families. Her father, Nelson Peltz, is known in the corporate world for results, strategy, dominance. It's a world of boardrooms, power plays, and bottom lines. On paper, the Beckhams and the Peltzes look like equals, two high-profile families accustomed to influence. But culturally, philosophically, they are very different beasts. The Beckhams built their empire through endurance and legacy. The Peltzes operate in a results-driven corporate arena. And when those two mindsets overlap, friction can happen. Now, reports have circulated that Nelson Peltz has never been entirely convinced of Brooklyn's independent value, financially or strategically. These claims come from insiders, not confirmed statements, but they've lingered in the background of this story like a low hum. And perception matters, because perception shapes power dynamics. Meanwhile, people close to David and Victoria have suggested something else entirely. That the real change wasn't about business at all. It was about transformation. They say Brooklyn slowly began deferring decisions, letting others speak for him, allowing conversations to be filtered. And then came the shift that made everything feel permanent. Family conversations, once casual, emotional, intimate, reportedly began passing through lawyers. Let that sink in. When family dinners turn into legal correspondence, something fundamental has broken. According to sources, that was the moment David and Victoria realized this wasn't a temporary misunderstanding. It was structural. They say Brooklyn wasn't always distant, that he once spoke warmly about his upbringing. That resentment wasn't part of his vocabulary. But Brooklyn tells a different story. He has denied narratives portraying him as controlled or manipulated. From his perspective, this isn't rebellion, it's independence. It's choosing his partner, his life, his direction. And that's where public opinion splits cleanly down the middle. Online, many fans have applauded him. They see a young man stepping out of a powerful family's shadow, choosing autonomy over expectation, breaking cycles. But others see something more unsettling. They ask one uncomfortable question. If the Beckham household was truly as controlling as implied, why is Brooklyn the only sibling who has distanced himself? Because here's the detail that complicates everything. His siblings have stayed out of it. They continue posting family photos, showing up to events, supporting both parents and brother without dramatic declarations. No public rebellion. No visible fracture. Just normalcy. And that difference fuels speculation. Is this about a toxic environment? Or is it deeply personal? Family dynamics are rarely black and white. They are layered. emotional, subjective. What feels suffocating to one child can feel supportive to another. And then there's marriage. Because marriage doesn't just unite two people, it merges ecosystems. When Brooklyn married Nicola, he didn't just gain a wife, he stepped into another power structure. And as he leaned further into his marriage, observers noticed something subtle. He leaned further away from home. Fewer appearances, fewer public moments with his parents, more alignment with his wife's side. Some say that's natural. Marriage reshapes priorities. Others say it felt abrupt. And in celebrity culture, distance speaks loudly. Behind the scenes, insiders describe a new reality: no more spontaneous visits, no casual phone calls, no effortless family dinners. Instead, communication reportedly became formal, managed, controlled. And once a family reaches that stage, where intermediaries stand between parents and child, rebuilding trust becomes monumental. Because trust isn't rebuilt through press releases, it's rebuilt through vulnerability. And vulnerability is nearly impossible when pride is involved. Most celebrity feuds follow a familiar pattern: shock, silence, then a glossy reconciliation photo, smiling at a birthday party, signaling that everything is fine. But this situation feels different. It's quieter, colder, more entrenched. And perhaps that's because it's not about one explosive event, it's about identity. Brooklyn Beckham was born into a legacy, a brand, a narrative already written before he could spell his name. But what if he doesn't want that narrative? What if photography wasn't a failed experiment, but a genuine attempt to step outside football's shadow? What if cooking wasn't confusion, but curiosity? Yes, he's pivoted. Yes, he's faced criticism. But finding your lane in your 20s, especially under a microscope, isn't weakness. It's messy by nature. Still, the contrast remains glaring. David Beckham represents consistency carved in stone. Brooklyn represents evolution in motion. One built through discipline, one still building. And in families defined by legacy, evolution can feel like betrayal. The deeper truth may not be about control or dominance. It may be about expectations. Expectations from parents, expectations from in laws, expectations from the public. Imagine carrying two dynasties on your shoulders, the Beckham name and the Peltz fortune, while trying to discover who you are beyond both. That pressure doesn't explode overnight, it simmers, quietly, until even silence feels heavy. And maybe that's the real story here. Not villains, not manipulation, not power plays, but a young man caught between loyalty and independence, between legacy and self definition, between the empire that raised him and the marriage he chose. The internet loves drama. It loves choosing sides. But family fractures are rarely theatrical in real life. They're slow, complicated, painful. And sometimes nobody is entirely right or entirely wrong. Perhaps the most telling detail isn't who's speaking, it's who isn't. Because when the loudest voices are anonymous insiders and the family members themselves remain restrained, it suggests something fragile, something still salvageable, or something too delicate to inflame publicly. Either way, the story isn't finished. Families break, families heal, sometimes both. But one thing is certain: the Beckham legacy was built on endurance. And endurance isn't just about football careers, it's about weathering storms. Whether Brooklyn ultimately returns closer to his parents or continues carving a separate path, this moment marks a shift, not just in family dynamics, but in identity. Because sometimes stepping away isn't rebellion, it's reinvention. And sometimes silence isn't coldness, it's protection. The question now isn't who wins, it's whether understanding can replace assumption, whether pride can soften into perspective, and whether a family defined by strength can rediscover flexibility. Because in the end, empires don't just survive through dominance, they survive through adaptation. And perhaps that's the chapter still being written. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't just scroll away. Subscribe for deeper dives into the stories behind the headlines, the nuance, the psychology, the power dynamics that shape celebrity lives beyond the paparazzi flashes. Because in Hollywood, the loudest drama isn't always the most revealing. Sometimes it's the quiet rifts that tell the real story. And trust me, we're just getting started.